Good morning, students. In the second session, today I will be explaining you objectives of auditing. Objectives of auditing has been broadly divided into two types, primary objectives and secondary objectives. First, we will discuss in detail primary objectives. The primary objectives of auditing is to express an appropriate opinion as to whether the financial statements present fair value with reference to or with respect to the materials which they are having in the organization, about the financial position of the organization and the results of operations, whether all these are showing or all these are reflecting the fair value or not. Not only that, but it is also with respect to cash flows of the company's business. That means how much cash is received by the organization. So how much payments has made in the form of cash from the business to outsiders. The one more primary objective of an auditor is not only to check the authenticity of the accounts, but also you should see whether the accounts are prepared in accordance with the recognized accounting policies and practices which are laid down in the concerned act of that business. That means you should also see all the accounts are maintained as per the regulations made under that concerned business organization. To ensure that the primary objectives of an audit is achieved, an auditor must examine the internal control and internal check system in the organization. You should verify whether all the books of accounts as per the required law are kept or not. You should also verify whether the proper accounting principles and procedures are followed in the organization. And you should also check the arithmetical accuracy of the books of accounts in the organization. That means you should ensure that whatever the accounts are maintained, the data given by the management is reflecting a correct arithmetical accuracy. And one more point, you should also ensure, you should verify the authenticity and validity of the business transactions. Not only that, you should also confirm the existence and the values of the business assets and liabilities by physical verification. That means to say that you should not depend on the data whatever the management is providing for the purpose of auditing. You should you should go to the warehouses and godowns, and you should also verify the existence of the assets, and you should also find out whether the financial statements is properly drawn up. That means you should confirm all the accounts whatever they are maintaining in the business organization, so it is prepared as per that prevailing act. That means the company joint stock companies has to prepare accounts as per the requirement under companies law. Partnership firms has to prepare their accounts as per partnership act, and cooperative societies has to prepare the accounts as per prevailing cooperative law, and banking industries or banks should prepare the accounts as per negotiable act or banking regulation act. And after ensuring all this, his duty is to report whether the profit and loss gives a true and fair view of the profits to the owners or to the appointing authority. He should confirm all the profits shown by them or shown in the organization, and the balance sheet gives a true and fair view of the financial position of the business at the end of the financial year. An auditor, after ensuring all the above said points, then he should give his opinion. He should express his expert opinion that the main objective of auditing is to No, he has to report all the information to the owners of the business, whether the profit and loss account and the balance sheet have been properly drawn or not according to the requirements of the law, and whether they exhibit a true and fair view of the profits and the financial position of the business or not. After thoroughly checking all the books of accounts, finally he has to make a report. He should express his views, his expertise, knowledge is given in the form of a report, and that report has to be submitted to the owners of the business. Now we will move on to secondary objectives. Again, secondary objectives are broadly divided into two: detection and prevention of errors, and second one is detection and prevention of frauds. I will repeat it again. Secondary objectives are broadly divided into two. The first one is detection and prevention of errors, and second one is detection and prevention of frauds. So now let me explain detection and prevention of errors. So first let us know meaning of the error. Error is, it refers to the mistakes which are committed unintentionally because of carelessness, ignorance, etc. So these errors of different types. The first one is clerical errors, compensating errors, error of principle, error of duplication. So I'll repeat. So error means it is a mistake. Usually all the human beings will do the mistakes. So error refers to mistakes which are committed without intention of doing it. Unintentionally they will do. So because of their ignorance or because of their carelessness or whatever it is. If it is done unintentionally, so those acts are called as errors. These errors are four types: clerical errors, compensating errors, error of principle, error of duplication. Now we will see what is the meaning of clerical errors. Clerical errors refers to those errors which arise due to wrong posting, ignorance, carelessness, etc. I'll repeat it again. Clerical errors refers to those errors which arise due to wrong postings in the ledger, ignorance while posting, carelessness while posting the entries into the ledgers. If these errors are discovered in the process of audit, the auditor should get them rectified with the concerned clerks or concerned officers or superintendents in the organization. So these clerical errors, so these are of two types. The first one is error of omission and second one is error of commission. So we will see what is the meaning of error of omission. These are the types of errors which arise on account of transaction omitted to be recorded in the books of accounts, either wholly or partially. This omission of transaction does not affect the agreement of trial balance. Hence, it is more difficult to find out. That means to say, clerical errors are those errors which are made by or which are committed by a clerk at the time of posting the entries to the ledgers because of his negligence or carelessness. So these clerical errors are of two types. The first one is error of omission. The error of omission is at the time of posting, when the entry either partially or fully, it is not recorded, it is not posted to the books of accounts. It is called as error of omission. I will repeat it. When the transaction either fully or partially is not posted to the books of accounts, it is called as error of omission. Example, purchase or sale of assets, so which is not recorded in the books of accounts. One more example is when the payment is made, so it is not recorded in the books of accounts. So when the goods are sold, the transaction is not recorded in the books of accounts. So all these are examples of error of omission. The second type of clerical error is error of commission. These are the types of errors which arise due to wrong posting to ledger accounts, wrong totaling, wrong calculations, or balancing in the books of accounts wholly or partially. These errors affect the agreement of trial balance. That means error of commission will occur when they do a mistake at the time of posting or at the time of totaling or at the time of making any calculations. If they do any mistakes, so that time, or at the time of balancing the books, if any mistakes are done, that is called as error of commission. When at the time of error of commission, the trial balance will not agree. That means trial balance will not tally. Whereas at the time of error of omission, definitely trial balance will tally, but the auditor, if he come across any type of error of omission, that he has to be rectified with the help of the concerned clerks in the organization. I'll repeat it. If there is any error of omission, definitely trial balance will tally, because they will not make an entry at all in the books of accounts. As such, trial balance will agree. Whereas in case of error of commission, it is a mistake done at the time of totaling, at the time of rank calculations are made, at the time of balancing the accounts, or at the time of posting. So definitely the trial balance, definitely it will not agree, it will not tally. We will see some of the examples of errors of commission. Say first example is when they purchase the goods for rupees 20,000, wrongly entered as 2,500 in purchase book. So then definitely trial balance will not at all tally. And one more example is credit purchase from AB company wrongly credited to BA company's account. Then also the trial balance does not agree. The one more example is wrong totaling. Total purchase day book is it is totaled as 1,12,500 instead of 1,21,500. So here is a total mistake. That means instead of writing 1,21,500, wrongly they have mentioned 1,12,500. So this kind of errors are called as errors of commission. Under detection and prevention of errors, the second type of error is compensating error. When an error is counterbalanced with another error, such an error is known as compensating error. These errors will not disturb the agreement of trial balance. That means, so when an error is counterbalanced, when it gets balanced with one more error, so such type of errors are called as compensating errors. So these errors will not disturb the trial balance at all. Say for example, Geeta's account, which was to be debited for rupees 6,000, was credited for rupees 6,000, and similarly Sita's account, which was to be credited for rupees 6,000, was debited for rupees 6,000. These two errors will nullify the effect of each other. The third type of error under prevention and detection of errors is error of principle. When transactions are not recorded in accordance with the fundamental principles of accounting, such an errors are known as error of principle. I'll repeat it again. When the transactions are not recorded as per the principles of accounting, fundamental principles of accounting, such an errors are called as error of principle. Example, furniture purchased for rupees 5,000 debited to purchasers account. That means when the purchases are made or when the furniture is purchased for cash, so that entry should be debited to furniture account or inventory account. Cash account should be credited. Instead of doing this, so they will debit purchases account with 5,000 rupees. So that means they have violated the rule of double entry system of bookkeeping. One more example is providing excessive or inadequate depreciation. Both are the violation of the accounting rules, basic accounting principles. The third example is where the provision for outstanding expenses or prepaid expenses is wrongly made. So then also it is violating the rules of fundamental accounting. When the revenue expenses are treated as capital expenditure or vice versa, or capital expenditure are treated as revenue expenditure, this is also a kind of error of principle which is against to fundamental principles of accounting. The fourth type of error under detection and prevention of errors is error of duplication. Error of duplication are those errors which arise because of double recording of the transaction. That means when the same entry is made twice in the books of accounts, so it is called as error of duplication. Example, goods purchased from Mr. X. This transaction is wrongly entered twice or more than 2 times in the books of accounts, or wrongly posted twice or more in Mr. X account. So then it is called as error of duplication. Detection of these kind of duplication errors is very difficult in the business organization. It should be detected with the proper and minute observation of accounts. Why? Because purchases may be recorded twice with original and duplicate copy of purchase invoice. Then it becomes very difficult to detect, because based on the duplicate they will post once, based on the original purchase invoice they will know second time they will post as such. So it becomes a tedious work for an auditor to detect these type of errors. Now we will see how the auditor will locate the errors, or so how we should evaluate or how we should locate, identify the errors in the books of accounts. In which method he has to follow. So as we know, the auditors are appointed to audit the books, not to identify the errors. But in many cases, they are called to find out the difference in the books of accounts. The auditor should follow the following procedure in this regard. The first thing he should do is, he should thoroughly check the trial balance. And secondly, you should compare the list of debtors and creditors with the trial balance. And thirdly, you should compare the names of account appearing in the ledger with the names of accounting in the trial balance. He must check the totals and balances of all accounts and see that they have been properly shown in the trial balance or not. And finally, you should also check the posting of entries from various books into ledger accounts. Under secondary objectives, the first type being detection and prevention of errors, I have explained you in detail clerical errors, compensating errors, error of principle and error of duplication. Now we will move on to main secondary objective, that is detection and prevention of frauds. Fraud refers to the intentional and deliberate misrepresentation of accounting records for a financial gain. These frauds are intended to deceive, to mislead, or to conceal the truth and material facts in the organization. They are more serious than errors, because errors are done unintentionally, but frauds are done with intention. If these frauds are not detected, it may affect the opinion of the auditor and the financial condition and the result of the organization. Hence, utmost care has to be taken by the auditor in respect of detecting the frauds. So, I will repeat it. Frauds refers to an intentional act of misrepresentation of accounting records to have a financial gain in the organization is called as a fraud. So frauds are no more dangerous than errors because errors are done without their intention. Frauds are done intentionally. Frauds have been done in the organization for the some financial benefit or some financial gain. So frauds are of three types. The first one is embezzlement or misappropriation of cash, and the second one is misappropriation of goods, and third one is manipulation or falsification of the accounts. First we will see, let me explain embezzlement of cash or misappropriation of cash. So we know in big business organizations where there is a separate existence between ownership and management, it is impossible by the individual owner to have direct control over the receipts and payments of cash transaction which is taking place in the business unit. Hence, misappropriation of cash is more frequent in these organizations. This is very less, we can say, in small organizations because so there is a direct control over the affairs of the business by the owners. Whereas in case of joint stock companies, it is very difficult to have a control over the company by the shareholders or by the owners of the company. As such, so this misappropriation of cash is very less in case of small business organizations, and we can say generally it is more in case of joint stock companies or large scale undertakings. Cash can be misappropriated by various ways. So some of are listed below. The first one being recording of fictitious payments. Unnecessarily they will record untrue payments. Without making the payments, they will show it that they have made a payment. And secondly, recording more amount than the actual amount of payment. That means they may pay 1000 rupees and they may show it as 10,000 rupees. That means they will record more amount in the ledger than the actual payment. And third one is suppressing receipts. That means they will receive more amount in the form of a receipt, but they will show less amount in the business records. And the fourth example is cash sales were shown as a credit sale. Actually, sales were done in the cash form. So they have sold the goods and they have received the cash, but instead of showing that as a cash sale, intentionally they will record it as a credit sales. So this is also an example of misappropriation of cash. In order to prevent these frauds, there should be a strict control over receipts and payments of cash known as internal check system. For detecting these frauds, the auditor should first check the cash book with original records, bill register. You should also verify with the invoices and vouchers, and you should also check the counter files issued by the banks and financial institutions, or you should verify the receipt books. You should clearly, thoroughly check the wage sheets and salesman's salary and salesman's diary and also bank statements in the organization at the time of doing the audit to minimize or to ensure that there is no misappropriation of cash. And the second type of fraud is misappropriation of goods. The companies which are dealing with high value of goods or precious goods are prone to this kind of frauds. So misappropriation of goods can be done in the following ways. The first one is goods may be stolen by the employer or with the help of employees. The second example being by issuing false credit notes to customer on account of goods return. As I told you, detection of misappropriation of goods is more difficult rather than detecting misappropriation of cash or money, especially where management is not much vigilant and sound system of bookkeeping or internal control system and adequate system of securities are not available in the business organization. To keep control on the physical verification of goods, reconciliation of physical stock with books and careful checking of sales and purchases is must. For this, the auditor can detect this fraud by checking the stock records and physical verification of goods with the help of stock inward and outward registered maintained in the organization, and the same has to be compared with the physical availability of stock or materials in the organization. And the third type of fraud is manipulation or falsification of accounts. Responsible persons who are in the top management of the organization will manipulate the accounts in order to achieve some specific objectives. Usually this manipulation or this falsification of accounts, it cannot be done by the supervisory or at the clerical cadre. Usually it is done by the top management, that is by the responsible persons in the organization. These frauds are intentional, definitely predetermined and is more difficult to detect. The accounts are presented in such a manner that they are not disclosing true picture of the financial activities of the business. As such, profits are reduced and a true picture of the organization are concealed, that is hidden. So this is known as, we call this as window dressing. Now let me explain how this manipulation of accounts, it is done in the organization by the top officials. As I told you, the first is the window dressing. Window dressing is manipulation or misrepresentation of financial data in such a way that it seems better than what actually it is. Some of the methods of window dressing is given as under. The first one, what they do is unnecessarily they will overvalue the closing stock. The second way of manipulating the account is either they will undervalue the liabilities or they will overvalue the assets. And the third type of this window dressing is purchases and expenses of current year. I'll repeat it. Purchases and expenses of current year may be deferred to the next financial year, or these purchases and expenses of the present year will be postponed to the next financial year. And one more method of window dressing is charging revenue expenditures as capital expenditure. So unnecessarily they will show the revenue expenditure as a capital expenditure in the books of accounts. And one more example is sale and other incomes of the preceding year may be shown as income for the current year. So these are all the types how they will show under window dressing, how they will window dress the transactions in the books of accounts. One more type of manipulating the accounts is about secret reserves. That means secret reserves of previous year may be used in the current financial year to inflate the profit, or secret reserves may be created to suppress the profit of the current financial year. Both they can do. What they can do is they can utilize the previous year secret reserves to, they will show to show more profit in the current year, or what they may do, The current year, no, they may create secret reserves in order to show the less profit in the current year. So both they will do. And the third type is stocks may be undervalued or overvalued. Income and sales may be suppressed or inflated. Expenses and purchases may be suppressed or inflated according to their way of misleading or the way of misleading the accounts. These frauds are very difficult to detect as they are committed by directors, managers, financial controllers who are at the top responsible positions in the organization. In order to locate these kind of frauds, the auditor has to be more vigilant, more watchful, and he should make searching enquiries one after the other until he gets the true correct picture or until to ensure the true position of the business organization. This is about the objectives, both the primary and secondary objectives of auditing. Now we will move on to the differences between accountancy and auditing. We know very well that when accounting ends, auditing work starts. So, and also we also know that accounting is a systematic way of recording the business transactions is called as accounting. The systematic way of evaluating the prepared accounts, we call it as auditing. Now we will see what exactly the differences between accounting and auditing. So we will take up the first basis is meaning. Accounting, as we know, it is concerned with recording of business transactions systematically, as I told you. Whereas auditing it is concerned with verification of accounts prepared by the accountant. The second basis of difference is objective. The main object of preparing the financial accounts is to know the financial results of the business, whereas the objective of auditing is to verify the truth and fairness of the accounts prepared in the organization. And the third basis is the scope. The scope of accounting is limited only to prepare the financial statements or final accounts, we can say. Whereas the scope of the auditing is concerned with checking the true and fairness of the prepared accounts is the scope of the auditing. The fourth basis is status. So accountant is employee of an organization, whereas auditor is an independent person or independent qualified chartered accountant who does not belong to the organization. And the fifth basis of difference is appointment. Appointment of accountant is made by the management. Appointment of the auditor is made by the shareholders. And the next basis is period of work. Usually accounting is carried throughout the year, whereas auditing is done usually at the end of the year. Once the preparation of accounts is over, once the financial is over, once the final accounts of the company is out, is prepared completely, then the auditing work starts. And the seventh basis of difference is qualification. There is no formal qualification to become an accountant in the organization. But to become a company auditor, one should be qualified chartered accountant. And eighth basis is dependence. Accountancy is not dependent on auditing, whereas auditing definitely it is started only after accounting ends. It is dependent on accounting. So auditing is dependent on accounting. The ninth basis of difference is nature of work. Accounting work is constructive work, and auditing work is analytical work. I'll repeat it. The ninth basis is nature of work. Accounting work is constructive work. Auditing work is analytical work. 10th basis of difference is accountability. Accountant is accountable to management, whereas auditor is accountable to shareholders. And the last basis of difference is liability. After preparation of the final accounts, the accountant has no liability, whereas auditor has the liability after presenting the audit report. That means he should explain or he should tell clearly in his report that where the management has went wrong, where the accounting is not showing the true and fair values, and he should explain so where the business is doing wrong. So as such, auditor has liability even after presenting or even after submitting the auditing report. Rest of the things we will discuss in the next session. Thank you.